It is relatively agreed upon that wood should be sanded before applying wood finish, but what grit should you be sanding to? That's a little bit more widely debated. Welcome to episode 2 of Asked and Answered. My name is Nick, and this is where we talk about your Osmo-related questions. This week's question is, what should I sand my wood to before applying Osmo 2K wood oil? Whether you're working with 2K wood oil, Poly-X oil, wood wax finish, or oil stain, our sanding recommendations tend to stay the same. We make 2 general sanding suggestions. If you're working with flooring, typically 100 or 120 is your final sanding grit, or for furniture, we recommend 180 to 220. Now with that said, your final sanding grit does depend on your wood species, its intended use, and the look you're going for. For instance, if you sand a floor to a higher grit, like 220, you're going to have an extremely slippery result. Inversely, if you sand a piece of furniture only to 100 or 120, it's likely not going to feel that great, and it probably won't look as good as you would like it to either. In terms of different wood species, extremely dense or oily woods may require a lower sanding grit to help promote penetration and adhesion of the finish. If you're curious about sanding to higher grits on furniture, it's typically not required for a high-quality finish. Sanding with finer grits creates finer dust, and this fine dust gets packed and trapped into the wood pores. This dust then inhibits the penetration of the oil and makes it harder for the wood to absorb. As a pro tip, make sure you're not skipping sanding grits. The purpose of incremental sanding is to ensure that the scratch pattern from the previous grit is entirely removed. If you skip a grit, there's a chance that the scratch pattern from a lower grit will show through once you apply finish, so it's generally worth taking the time to not skip grits. As an example, if you start with 80 grit and you're moving to 180, you go 80, 100, 120, 150, and 180. So to recap, we suggest sanding flooring to 100 or 120 grit as your final grit, and 180 to 220 for furniture. That's going to do it for today's episode of Asked and Answered. My name is Nick, and if you have an Osmo-related question, please let us know, and we'll see you again next time.